The cock had barely crowed twice when the village of Iduoma stirred to life. A golden streak of dawn broke over the hills, waking up a small community tucked between dense forests and flowing streams. Smoke curled from mud kitchen huts as women lit their fires for the morning meal, and the call of market women echoed across the red earth. It was a place where dignity lived beside struggle, and everyone knew everyone's story. In this village lived Nkiru, a young woman whose name was spoken with a mix of admiration and caution. She wasn't born with a silver spoon, but she had forged her life with fire and will. Her father, Maziobina, tapped palm wine for a living, and her mother, Ngozi, sold cassava at the central market. They had little, but they poured everything they had into their children, especially Nkiru, who was the eldest and most determined of them all. At 22, Nkiru had already become a teacher in the local primary school, while studying for a degree in education through a distant learning program. Each morning, children ran to school not just because they loved learning, but because of her, the young woman who read them stories, taught them math on a chalkboard, and gave them hope that they too could dream beyond the village. It was this rare combination of beauty and brains that caught the attention of Chief Chimaobi Okafor, a man whose return to the village came with thunder. Chief Chima was a man of immense wealth and ego. At 48, he was one of Nigeria's most powerful land developers and lived like a king. When he arrived in Iduoma in a convoy of black SUVs, accompanied by policemen and thugs disguised as aides, the village felt it in their bones. He bought land, built a marble mansion complete with imported Italian tiles and golden gate lions, and claimed his ancestral roots with noise and intimidation. Women whispered that he had 4 wives and countless concubines in Lagos. Men bowed and called him Odogwu in hopes of favors. But Chima had one new obsession: Nkiru. He first saw her during a village event, her hair in thick black braids, her eyes bright, her lips curved into a quiet smile. He approached her after the festivities, extending an invitation to join him for dinner at his estate. "I'm flattered, Chief," Nkiru said gently, "but I am not available for such things." He laughed, brushing it off. "You don't know who I am, my dear. I'm not asking you to date me. I'm offering you a life beyond these dusty roads. I'll put you in a house in Lagos, make you my 5th wife. You'll never lack anything." But Nkiru looked him in the eye, unshaken. "I'd rather drink Gary with my dignity than bathe in wine bought with shame." The entire community heard of her refusal by nightfall. Some applauded her courage. Others shook their heads, muttering, "She doesn't know what she has done." And Chief Chima, embarrassed and enraged, quietly vowed she would learn a lesson, one that would echo through generations. Days turned into weeks, and whispers followed Nkiru wherever she went. Women at the market no longer smiled when she passed. Some believed she had brought danger upon herself. Others quietly admired her strength, but were too afraid to show support. Then, misfortunes began to creep in. First, Maziobina slipped from his palm tree and broke his leg, an accident unheard of in his 30 years of tapping. Then, Ngozi's market stall was mysteriously burned one night, leaving her with nothing but ashes and tears. Nkiru's youngest brother, Ebuka, narrowly escaped being hit by a speeding SUV with tinted windows, a black Prado that villagers swore belonged to Chief Chima. Still, Nkiru did not relent. Her resolve hardened. She would walk past the chief's mansion every morning with her head high, daring his security men to touch her with her eyes. Then came a chilling letter. An envelope left on her doorstep with no name, no address, just a short message. "You can either become the jewel of a king or the ashes of your pride." Her mother wanted to go to the elders. Her father wanted to plead for mercy. But Nkiru said, "If I bow now, I will never be able to raise my head again." What she didn't know was that Chimaobi was no longer trying to win her. He was preparing to destroy her. The night it happened, the sky was quiet. Too quiet. Even the crickets refused to sing. Nkiru had returned from school, her hands sore from grading notebooks. She helped her mother prepare yam porridge in their backyard kitchen. As the firewood crackled and they stirred the pot, a soft wind blew, in from the west, carrying with it a strange smell. Petrol. Before anyone could react, a bottle wrapped in cloth came flying through the air. Boom! It exploded against the kitchen wall, instantly igniting flames. The fire roared, spreading across the dry thatch and licking everything in sight. Nkiru's wrapper caught the edge of the blaze. She screamed in agony, collapsing onto the dirt. Her mother tried to smother the flames with a sack. Neighbors poured water, sand, and prayers into the chaos. When they pulled her from the fire, Nkiru's body was scorched from waist to neck. Her right cheek was blackened, her eyes barely opened. "She's still breathing," someone shouted. They rushed her to the clinic, but the nurse took one look and said, "This one must go to Enugu." It was only after 2 surgeries that she regained consciousness. But when she saw her reflection, she wept for 3 days without food. Her beauty was gone. Her face, once adored by many, was now a mask of pain. Chief Chima, meanwhile, released a statement. "I have no hand in this. If she had an accident in her home, that is unfortunate, but let us not forget how careless village girls can be." But Nkiru knew, and the world was about to know too. The burn ward in Enugu Teaching Hospital became Nkiru's new world. White sheets, antiseptic smells, nurses who tried to smile but looked away too quickly, skin grafts, physical therapy, nightmares that woke her in cold sweat, screaming and clutching her chest. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive, but Nkiru didn't feel lucky, not when her once beautiful face had been turned into a battleground of scars, not when the pain stabbed with every breath, not when she heard her mother sob quietly in the corner every night. Her father, now limping from his fall, sold their family's only land to pay for part of the hospital bill. The rest came from donations from a few kind teachers, students' parents, and a community fundraiser organized by a local reverend. But Chief Chima's shadow hung heavy. He paid journalists to kill the story. Local leaders who tried to speak out were threatened. Even the town council elders said it was best to let sleeping dogs lie. "Nkiru is lucky to be alive," they reasoned. "Let her heal in peace." But healing meant silence, and Nkiru refused. One day, as her bandages were being changed, Nkiru asked for her phone. With trembling hands, she typed her first message to a human rights activist she had once heard on the radio. "My name is Nkiru Uma. I am a teacher. I was set on fire because I refused to become a millionaire's 5th wife. I need help, please." Message spread like a match to dry grass. The activist forwarded it to Amaka Ibe, an investigative journalist in Lagos known for exposing powerful men. Amaka was skeptical at first. There were so many fake stories, but something about Nkiru's message felt raw, real. 2 days later, Amaka arrived in Enugu. She found Nkiru sitting under a mango tree in a wheelchair, her face half wrapped in gauze, eyes hollow but voice steady. With a recorder and camera, Amaka documented her story, taking pictures, video clips, and medical reports. She interviewed her mother, neighbors, even her former students. That weekend, Amaka published the article, "Scars of Defiance, the teacher who refused a millionaire's proposal and paid with fire." The internet exploded. Justice for Nkiru began. Trending in Nigeria, then across Africa, activists, NGOs, and celebrities posted about her. Donations poured in from Nigerians in the diaspora. A Lagos-based law firm reached out and offered pro bono legal representation. Women's rights groups held peaceful marches in Abuja and Enugu. Nkiru's face, though scarred, became a symbol, not of pity, but of power. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed. Protesters held placards outside with slogans like, "No means no," and "Burning a woman is not love. It's evil." Chief Chima walked in flanked by lawyers and guards, dressed in agbada, sunglasses shielding his eyes. His once charming grin was replaced by a hard sneer. He pleaded not guilty. His lawyers claimed the fire was accidental, that the family kitchen had caught flame due to a faulty kerosene lantern. that Nkiru was using her scars to seek attention and money. But Nkiru, now walking with a cane, took the stand and told her story. There was a hush as she spoke. Her voice didn't tremble. She looked directly at the judge, ignoring Chima's glare. She described the proposal, the threats, the strange accidents, the letter, and finally the firebomb that destroyed her body. "I was not attacked because I was reckless," she said. "I was attacked because I said no." Amaka presented photos, voice notes from witnesses, and most importantly, a recorded confession from one of Chima's former security men who had fled to Aba and agreed to speak in exchange for protection. "We're told to scare her, but things got out of hand. We were paid to burn her house when just to teach her lesson." Gasps filled the room. Chima's defense collapsed. On the final day of trial, hundreds gathered outside the court. Mothers carried babies on their backs. Young women held signs that read, "We are all Nkiru." The judge, a stern woman with gray hair and thick glasses, read the verdict. "Chief Chimaobi Okafor, the court finds you guilty of conspiracy to commit arson, attempted murder, and abuse of power. You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment with no option of parole." There was silence, then cheers. Some wept, others danced. Chima was led away in cuffs, screaming that he would still rise again. But the world had moved on. Nkiru stood on the courtroom steps, holding her mother's hand. Amaka stood beside her. Her cane tapped softly as she faced the press. "I didn't win because I am special. I won because people chose to speak out. I will spend my life speaking for those who can't." 2 years passed. Nkiru had moved to Abuja, where she now ran a foundation called Ashes to Voice, offering legal aid, therapy, and shelter to survivors of gender-based violence. Her book, Scars That Speak, was a national bestseller and studied in several universities. One day, she stood before an audience of thousands in Nairobi, Kenya, guest speaker at the Pan-African Women's Conference, clad in a flowing Ankara gown, head held high. Her face still bore the scars, but her smile was radiant, her voice thunderous. "They tried to silence me with fire, but they only purified my purpose. I am not what I lost. I am what I chose to become." The hall erupted in applause. A young girl in the crowd stood and shouted, "You're our hero." And in that moment, Nkiru Ume, the village teacher who dared to say no to a millionaire, became a continent-wide symbol of resistance, healing, and rebirth, not in spite of her scars, but because of them.